Hey guys, Marissa at kitchentablestamper.com. Today I've got a fun little twofer trick for you. All right, so every other Thursday we get together in the craft social and we play a game called Coffee and Mystery Card. And this week's Coffee and Mystery Card is just a fun twofer. Easy card, but a cool little technique. When you start with your 3.5 by 4 inch designer series paper, preferably when it doesn't have a strong directional pattern. I'm using the Tea Boutique Designer Series paper. There are a lot of directional patterns in that pack. So the first thing you want to do is pick a repeat pattern, something that doesn't have a real strong directional. The tea cups, the teapots wouldn't work for this because then one of your cards would be upside down. So keep in mind when you're selecting your 3.5 by 4 inch piece that you have one that's not a strong directional. Now this one does have a direction. I want my stripes to go vertical instead of horizontal. That's doable. But if you had teapots all across this paper, then when you cut the paper and flip it, the bottom half of the teapots would be upside down on the card. See? So choose your paper carefully, cut it 3.5 by 4.5, and then you're going to grab a ruler, and from the left side, you're going to measure down 1.25 inches and just make a little dot on the very edge of the paper, 1.25 inches. And then on the right side of the paper, you're going to measure down 2.25 inches and just make a little dot on the very edge of the paper. Now we're going to grab our paper trimmer and we're going to cut this paper in half and have the pieces that you need for 2 cards. You can make them identical or you can get creative with each one, whatever makes you happy. So we're going to line up the 1.25 dot on the track here. And then we're going to line up the 2.25 dot on the track. And once you've got those guys, then just slice your paper into 2. Flip, and let's make 2 cards. I'm using the Cup of Happiness bundle. I love this bundle. It's just so much fun to mix and match the teacups with all of the included pieces. I'm going to step it up a little bit by adding the medium daisy to our cup. Doesn't that look just so cute with the daisy and the teacup? All right, let's get our card bases and our white layers. We're going to do our layers, and you need 2 of everything for this twofer. So I got 2 basic black card bases. These are 4.25 by 11 and they're scored at 5.5. Let's go ahead and work that crease and fold these cards. And then I have basic white. This is 4 by 5.25. Layers right on. Now before we adhere anything, let's get our designer series paper in ribbon treatment and sentiment. I've got some liquid glue and I'm just going to adhere 1/2 of the designer series paper to each of these basic white panels. You want to line up all the way against the top and square everything up nicely. I could check that from the back. It's a little bit easier to see. Once you got everything all lined up and squared up, burnish down and repeat. Next we need our greeting. I got my greeting from the Pansy Patch stamp set. This is also photopolymer, so let's grab a Stampin' Pierce mat. Going to stamp my greeting in garden green. Well, we've got ink pads and a Stampin' Pierce mat. Let's do all of our stamping. This is Crushed Curry and Memento Tuxedo Black. First, we got our lovely card fronts, and I love this, wishing you a little extra happiness just because you're you. We're going to put it maybe a little less than 1/2 inch from the bottom. And garden green, 1 on each card. Lovely. Side to the side. Now I've already done 1 set of the images and I cut them out just for the magic of television. But we've got the other half of our basic white. We're going to do our images. Got the teacup. Do that in Tuxedo Black. And this great big leafy sprig. I love this sprig. I'm going to do that in Garden Green. Then I got the spray of flowers. We'll do that one in Crushed Curry. And I've got this one sweet little flower, a little bit bigger than the ones in the spray. We're going to do that one in crushed curry also. And I think we're going to use the scrap up here so we get some room between our dies when we're running it through the machine, because we can run them all in one pass per card. All right, so there is our stamping. I'm going to clear away the ink pads. Before we get the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, let's color the vines on our teacup. I'm going to do a black and white teacup. I really love the kind of modern flair that this gives, and I'm using a dark basic black Stampin' Blend marker to fill in each of the leaves, and I'm just taking my time and kind of doing a little dab and flick to give a solid fill without going outside the lines. All right, there is our nice hard contrast black and white cup. I love it. Now we're just going to move the dies. I've got them on with just a little bit of low tack tape. So I'm going to just reposition them, and we'll crank them through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Right, I got my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and 1, 2, 3, my paper, 3 again. Let's give it a crank. My cup and my big leaf were a little too close for comfort, so I'm going to make a second pass and get that big leaf out of there. We need the 2 bigger flowers from that sprig. These little guys you can put in the stamp case for another project if you like. Okay, we've got all of our parts, and I did the parts for the second card ahead of time. So let's just slide those over to the side for a minute. Bring back in our sample and our 2 card fronts. I'm going to wrap these card fronts with some black and white gingham ribbon. And you can absolutely tape from one end to the other and then go back and slide the bow underneath if you want to save a couple of inches of ribbon. Going to tie this nice and snug. It'll also help if you're having trouble and the ribbon is too loose and sliding down. What you can do is take one strip, tape it to the back. You'd save a couple of inches of ribbon that way. Then when you do your bow, slide under and tie your bow onto the ribbon. Whichever one is more effective for you, and this way is just a little faster for me. So it does use a couple more inches of ribbon, but it's a little quicker. And the idea here with this twofer is that without a lot of extra design, without a lot of extra work, we get 2 gorgeous cards. So I'm going with the quick method of wrap and tie. Let's do this other guy. All right, we've got 2 wrapped and tied card fronts. Let's glue them to our card base. I love the modern geometry, the contrast, high contrast of the black and white gingham, the stripe with this high contrast, and then we bring in our beautiful little teacup with its black and white. Let's go ahead and adhere that one to the card. We're going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals. I already have them on this one. Want to make sure that you're low enough to your greeting that your sprig will fit and that your handle isn't off the edge. Let's get this guy done. Next, our sprig. I'm going to put a little dimensional just about halfway up from the center. It's going to tuck under the teacup, so you don't need to put that dimensional too high. Just kind of lift the side. And our second copy. I love twofer cards. I really do, especially when they're as cute as this one. All right, let's get that guy under there. Good, right? Now our flower. Let me show you how to build this little flower. I'm going to put one little liquid glue right inside of our teacup. And then I've got some more of the Tea Boutique paper. It's the one with the envelopes on the back, the crushed curry. And I've gone ahead and I've already punched out one. You're going to need 3 for each card. So for the twofer, you need 6 of these little medium daisies. I like to really try to thread them in between each other and get as much use out of the paper as I can get. We're getting another one in that corner. I love it. I like to do them very close and so that they intertwine so you can get as many daisies out. All right, now we're going to use a bone folder and shape these. The first one we're going to roll so that the pattern, the desired pattern, is up and the petals roll away. The other two you're going to do so that the petals curl up. And you just want to go very gentle between your bone folder and your thumb. If you pull too hard, you will pull the petal off, and it's so easy to do. So just be gentle and take your time. Roll up each of the petals just a bit. All right, now we're going to take the one that's down. The petals are down. Add a little dot of glue in the center. And then one of the ones with the petals curls up. And we're going to offset a little bit. Another bit of glue. And then our third one, it's going to fill in the gap. See how it goes petal, petal, gap, petal, petal, gap. This one's going to go over so that it fills that gap and gives you a real full flower. I decided to put a button in the center of my flower. I just raided the button jar. I took some black buttons from the button jar, thread them with some linen thread, stuck them onto glue dots, and that's what I've got for the center of this. I wanted to carry on with that awesome contrast and texture, and I think the button really does that. So that's your choice there, what you use. You could punch out a little circle of black cardstock. You could run it through an embossing folder to give it some texture if you wanted to, and I think that that would be a good flat option, especially if you're mailing this card. Little liquid glue on the back, pop it in the cup. Adorable. Now those flowers that we cut, we've got a big one and 2 smaller ones. Going to put a half a dimensional on one of the smaller ones so that it can go over the edge of the cup. So here's our smaller flower. We're going to put this dimensional way up against the top edge there, peel, and then we're going to slide it up against the cup so that the dimensional is on the card base and the part that was not dimensional is sitting on the cup, which is already raised up. So we'll do that for our second copy and our 2 first set. And then a little dab of liquid glue. I like to take a little bit more than I need for bits like this. And then I've got my 4 flowers, 2 for each card. And I'm going to just take this one that has a little too much glue and I'm going to touch. And then I'm going to put the flower, and then I'm going to touch, and then I'm going to put the flower, and then touch these 2 and put the flowers. So a great way to keep from making a gluey mess while adhering small bits to your cards. All right, we're not quite done with our twofer yet. Every card needs just a little bit of bling. So we're going to add some dots. These are the basic matte dots. There's some black ones, 2 different sizes in this set, and we're going to use 3 on the card, 3 on each card. I'm going to do the larger dot in the larger flower. All right, I think I got it there. And then the smaller dots in the centers of the smaller flowers. I really love that additional pop, that additional punch of black, and how it adds just a little bit more contrast and a great dimensional characteristic. Kind of repeats the button center in your large daisy. So there it is. That's our Coffee and a Mystery card for today. If you have never played along with us in the Kitchen Table Stamper Craft Social, I hope you'll give it a try. Where the link is below the video description if you're watching on YouTube, and in the body of the text if you're watching on the blog. We'd love to see what you do with this fun twofer designer series paper. If you've got any questions about the project or if there's anything I can do to help you stay crafty, email Marisa at kitchentablestamper.com. And to shop Stampin' Up 24/7, you can buzz over to marisaalvarez.stampinup.net and click shop. All right, guys, have a great day. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.